Hey y'all, this is Wilson Phil. I've been, as some people who see this video will know, I've been thinking a lot about pastoring a small church for years. For those of you who don't know, I'll give you a little bit of my autobiography of, when I first acknowledged that I was getting a call from God to pastor a church, was probably about 10 years ago. Before that, I thought, to be a preacher, you have to be perfect and you have to be celibate, and because I grew up Roman Catholic, so I thought I had to be a priest. I didn't want to be a priest, so all grown up, I ignored the call on my life because, I felt it many times growing up that there's a call to do something, and I wasn't sure what it was. But I would see people and somebody needs to tell them, exactly what. I wasn't sure, But anyway, about 10 years ago, when I first started to respond to the call, I was a member of the United Methodist Church, in my United Methodist denomination. Really interdenominational now. But at the time, that's where I was, and to become a pastor, I needed to get a Master's Divinity degree. So I started going to St. Paul School of Theology in Kansas City, Missouri, and I started working with a pastor who was my advisor. I can't remember, there was a word, and there's this big old fat workbook which had you go through a whole bunch of questions. It's almost like premarital counseling. I mean, because it was had everything off the past. You might have this problem. This might happen. And are you really ready? All those kind of questions? Are you really ready? And I knew I was ready. I would read these things. I would look at the scripture that referred to different topics, and it was something that I needed to do. I just needed to do this. So, in the spring, it was March or April or something like that, of I should have written this on the calendar, because this is a big deal. I went in front of the district committee, because that's how the United Methodist is divided into districts, and there are committees for everything. And interviewed with the committee, and they were like, "No, I'm sorry, you're not ready." So I didn't get appointed, because your appointment, there's such thing as I think it was a student pastorate, I think that's what it's called. And so the committee wasn't appointing me, but I could still look for a church, which I did. And that summer, we visited, my wife and daughters and I visited this really small church. I can't even remember what the podunk name was. It was in Missouri, not far from Kansas City. So, and they had a little United Methodist church, and they'd had a student pastor before. So basically, what I was doing was, it was like interviewing for a job in a way, because as a pastor, what you get in that church is a pastorate, parsonage, a house. You get a house, and I think the salary there was like $500 a month or something, plus the pastorate, and that was great. I mean, because the pastor, that pays your electric or gas or water. You don't have bills. It's just food and gas to and from school. That's all I was gonna. So I was gonna be able to afford it, and it went well that day. Had a good day with the people that I met. We toured the church. Liked the church a lot. Went inside the pastorate. Oh, this is a nice house. I can live in here. Had its own little office. Great. And that night, after they'd already said okay, got a call saying, we changed our minds. Apparently, some people in the church didn't like the fact that I was too young. Well, anyway, okay. I was discouraged, but I wasn't gone. I kept with the book. I had a different pastor I was working with because I think one of the guys retired or something. I can't remember exactly what happened, but we were going through getting ready another year. We'd meet every Sunday night or something. It was once a week we'd meet and go over the lesson plans or the questions for that week or the Bible readings and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, next time I went in front of the committee, that next spring, they told me that I wasn't called by God. And that made me angry. I got offended. And that's something you really got to avoid, getting offended in church, because that's one of Satan's tools, is offense. But I was young, didn't know this, didn't really realize that, but I got offended because here was a committee of 10 people I didn't know from the Man on the Moon. After 15 minutes, they knew that I wasn't called by God. You don't learn anybody in 15 minutes. Not in committee setting. I mean, it can happen once. There could be a miracle. Boom, you know the person. But this is a committee. You don't have this boom miracle with 15 people and them all be wrong because so anyway, I was offended. And left the United Methodist Church. I wasn't doing great in school anyway because it was an hour commute to school, which is no big deal because I had a job that was an hour commute also. But so I was tired, and I had to go back to work because I quit work in order to go to school. Because I couldn't take a 40-hour a week work and then also take 15 hours of schooling, and it was just so I had to go back to work, and it made me tired. And I was like, this is, and then this is a different issue, but it's related because it's part of my story. Copy and pasted some of my own writings. And I was accused of plagiarism and flunked on a paper, failed the class. I was like, I'm not going back to school. So I got 2 years of my Master's of Divinity done, but I was annoyed. And it was 10 years later. Okay, when we left that church, United Methodist Church, we went to Seventh-day Adventist. That's a big jump. If you know the Adventists, they go to church on Saturday. They don't eat pork. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. I'm gonna save this. It's almost 10 minutes. I'm gonna make a part 2 because otherwise YouTube might not take it.